The priest had just raised his hand for the final blessing. The air inside the small village house was thick with the scent of incense, old wood, and grief. Stan knelt beside the casket of the only man who had ever truly loved him, his 100-year-old grandfather, Francis. Outside, the night was quiet except for the distant chirping of crickets and the soft murmur of relatives who had only just arrived. Inside, the wooden beads of the Rosary clicked steadily between the fingers of the village women. Every face in the room was solemn, until the front door did not simply open, it was thrown wide with force. The prayer stopped mid-sentence. A man in a sharp charcoal suit stood in the doorway. His shoes were polished, his briefcase expensive enough to buy the entire house. He was not a relative. He was not a neighbor. He did not even look like he belonged in this dusty village. He looked straight at Stan and spoke 4 words that turned grief into shocked silence. How did a boy who spent his life sweeping floors, cooking simple meals, and reading the Bible to a penniless old man suddenly become the talk of the entire country? To understand the wealth that was about to be unleashed, we must go back to the man who never wore anything but white. Francis was a landmark in the village. Not because he was rich, everyone believed he was poor, but because of the strange peace that followed him wherever he walked. For 100 years he had lived in the same small house his father had built. For 100 years he had worn only white. White is a reminder, Stan, he would say, his voice soft like the rustle of dry leaves. It reminds us to keep our souls clean for the guest who might arrive at any moment. Stan did not just visit Francis. He lived with him. While other young men his age chased money and noise in the big city, Stan chose the quiet path. He had been only 12 when his own parents died in a road accident. Francis, already old even then, had taken the orphan boy in without a second thought. Every morning at exactly 5 a.m., the same sound woke the house, the soft tapping of Francis's wooden stick on the floorboards. Francis said, "Stan, my son, the sun is waking up to praise the Creator. Shall we join them to praise thy Creator?" They would sit on the porch as the first light broke over the hills. Together they prayed the Rosary. The wooden beads clicked in rhythm, becoming the heartbeat of that small house. After prayer, Francis would tell stories, not of riches or power, but of ordinary people who chose kindness when it cost them something. He spoke of a widow who shared her last bag of rice during a famine. He spoke of a young man who forgave the person who had stolen his land. He spoke of the quiet strength that comes from living with a clean heart. Stan listened. He cooked. He cleaned. He helped Francis bathe when the old man's hands shook too much. He never asked for payment. He never complained when the food was simple or when the roof leaked during the rainy season. Neighbors sometimes mocked him. "You're wasting your youth, Stan. That old man has nothing. When he dies, you'll be left with an empty house and empty hands." But Stan would only smile and continue sweeping the porch. Francis saw everything. He watched the boy grow into a young man of quiet character. And in his heart, he began to prepare something the village would never expect. The end came not with a bang, but with a whisper. It was a Tuesday evening. The rain had been falling steadily since afternoon. Francis's breathing had grown shallow over the past week. The village doctor had already said there was nothing more to be done. Francis refused to go to any hospital. "I will die in the house I built with these hands," he had said. That night, as the candle burned low, Francis beckoned Stan closer. Francis said slowly, "You have been my hands and feet, Stan. You have asked for nothing, and so, I give you everything." Stan replied with tears falling, "Grandpa, you've already given me everything. You taught me how to be a man. You taught me how to pray. That is more than money." Francis smiled. There was a glint in his eyes, something sharp and knowing, as if he carried a secret the rest of the world had overlooked. He pulled Stan even closer. His breath smelled of mint leaves and old books. Francis said, "When everyone thinks they have buried me, look beneath what they never valued. The earth holds secrets, but the paper holds the truth." Those were his last words. He closed his eyes. A final, soft breath left his lips. And he was gone. No mortuary. No cold steel tables. As he had wished, Francis remained in his home, the same house he had built with his own hands 60 years earlier. Stan sat beside the body the entire night, holding the old man's hand until it grew cold. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the village clean. Word spread quickly. Within 2 days, relatives Stan had not seen in more than a decade began arriving in dusty cars and crowded buses. Uncles, cousins, distant in-laws, all of them suddenly remembered how much they had loved the old man. Their eyes, however, were not on the casket. They were scanning the house, looking for hidden money, land documents, anything of value. Uncle George said loudly, "He lived to 100, Stan. A man doesn't live that long without putting something aside. A pension. A secret stash. Don't lie to us." Stan replied, "He had his faith, Uncle. That was all." The relatives muttered among themselves. Some laughed quietly. Others began opening drawers and checking under mattresses the moment Stan left the room. Then the front door opened once more. The man from the city stepped inside. "His name is Sterling." The room fell silent. Sterling said, "I am the executor of the Francis Trust. My name is Sterling. I have been instructed to read the final instructions of the late Francis." He opened the briefcase and removed a thick folder of documents. Sterling speaks, "For 60 years, your grandfather was the silent partner in 3 of the largest agricultural firms in this state. He never spent a single cent of the profits. He reinvested everything. He lived simply because, in his own words, a man who wears white does not need the stains of luxury." The room was so quiet that the only sound was the soft crackle of the candles. Sterling continued speaking, "The current value of the portfolio is $54 million. According to the living service clause written into the trust more than 40 years ago, there is only one beneficiary, the person who remained with Francis until the end. The one who stayed." All eyes turned to Stan. The relatives exploded. "This is fraud. He manipulated the old man. We are the blood relatives." Uncle George stepped forward, face red with anger. "You will not steal what belongs to this family, boy." Mr. Sterling remained calm. "The will is clear. And there is more." Francis recorded video messages over the years. He kept detailed journals of every act of care Stan performed. Every meal cooked. Every night spent by his bedside. Every prayer shared. The evidence is extensive. The legal battle that followed was fierce and public. Newspapers picked up the story. Television stations sent reporters to the village. For weeks, Stan's quiet life was turned upside down. But Francis had prepared for this moment long before anyone else knew. The court case lasted nearly 8 months. The relatives hired expensive lawyers. They claimed undue influence. They claimed Stan had isolated the old man. They painted him as a greedy orphan who had waited for the old man to die. But the evidence Francis had left behind was overwhelming. Video after video showed the old man speaking clearly years earlier, naming Stan as the sole heir. Journals in Francis's own handwriting recorded the daily acts of love. One entry simply read, "Today Stan washed my feet when I could no longer reach them. This is the son the Lord gave me." When the judge finally delivered the verdict, he looked directly at the relatives and said words that would be quoted across the country. Judge said, "You wanted his money, but you never wanted him. The law, in this case, follows the heart." Stan was awarded the entire estate. What happened next surprised everyone. He did not buy a mansion. He did not buy a luxury car. He did not move to the city. Instead, Stan used a large portion of the money to buy back land that had been taken from poor families over the years and returned it to them with clear titles. He built a community center where children could study after school and where the elderly could receive free medical checkups. He renovated the village church that had been leaking for 20 years. He established scholarships for orphans and for children whose parents could not afford school fees. He still lived in the same small wooden house. He still woke at 5 a.m. He still prayed the Rosary. When reporters asked him why he had not spent the money on himself, Stan simply answered. Stan said, "My grandfather taught me that true wealth is not what you keep. It is what you give while your hands are still warm." Money can be inherited by anyone with a bloodline. Character cannot. Character must be built, one prayer, one act of kindness, one quiet sacrifice at a time. Francis died looking like a poor man in white. But he left behind the richest young man in the country, not because of the $54 million, but because of the heart that had been shaped beside him for years. Stan still wears simple clothes. He still walks the same dirt paths. And every morning, when the sun rises, he whispers the same words his grandfather taught him. The sun is waking up to praise the Creator. Shall we join it? If this story touched your heart, don't scroll past. Share it so someone else can feel the light too. Subscribe to Viral Voice Tales for more unforgettable stories where kindness, faith, and quiet courage changes ordinary lives forever.